Good morning, students of class 12. Here today I am going to tell you about the third level, that is the first chapter from the book Vistas, in which the writer Jack Finney wants to tell us about the 31-year-old protagonist of the story. He is Charlie. This man works and he is tired of his hectic schedule. He declares that there are 3 levels and claims to have been there as well. But no one trusts him. This very lesson is all about the time travel and the space. Here you will know everything about the lesson that is required for writing and understanding. So you must develop a little more sense so that you can write everything. This is the setting of the story. Grand Central Station in New York. It is officially opened on February 2, 1913, so it celebrated its 100th birthday this year. In 1908, the excavation of Grand Central Station began in New York City. This is a view of the balcony in Grand Central Station taken between 1913 and 1930. This is where the Apple Store is located today. This is a view of one of the many art corridors in Grand Central Station taken in 1912, as well as the main character Charlie walked down one of these corridors on his way to the 3rd level. Then what does happen? There is another art corridor. The man in the black clothes is wearing a derby hat. In the background to the left, one can see more corridors and arches. On the right, you see the old ticket station. And here an interesting feature of this picture is the ghostly feel of the people. It was taken in 1912. This picture was taken in 1919 and it is an outside view of the terminal from Vanderbilt Avenue and 42nd Street. This is where Charlie entered the station in the story. Then what does happen? It is the 20th Century Limited was an express passenger train that ran between Grand Central Terminal and La Salle Street Station in Chicago. It was operated by the New York Central Railroad from 1902 until 1967. So here you can understand that this was the train by which he wanted to come out. But what did happen? Here it is the Metro North commuter arrived at New York's Grand Central Terminal on January 11, 1996. The clock above the Grand Central Terminal information booth still ticks off the time 100 years after it was built. And the world's largest terminal covers 49 acres with 33 miles of track. Over 700,000 people pass through the terminal every day and it operates over 700 trains per day. You can think that how big this very central station is. So here The story revolves around the key instance where protagonist Charlie chanced upon the third level at the Grand Central Station, New York. Even though he has been there hundreds of times, he was always discovering new tunnels and doors. So he kept on when he found a new level where he knew he should have been only two. Means he thinks that there are only two, but where is the third one? To him, Grand Central was always growing like a tree, pushing out new tunnels and corridors. It was to his surprise, the third level was completely different and old fashioned. Members of the National Guard watched commuters as they walked through the main concourse on January 25, 2013. He noticed that the locomotive, the brass spittoons, and the naked gaslight belonged to 1819 something. Women's fashion further confirmed his doubt. He now desired to visit Galesburg, for he saw it as a chance to go back to a peaceful time. However, he was called out for trying to pay the fare with money that was completely different from the one used in those days. He had 300 new currency, but he just buys 200 old currency for that, so that he could travel with Louisa, his wife, to the whole America. Charlie thus ran back out into the present. He never found the third level again. When he told his psychiatrist friend, he told Charlie that it must be him looking for an escape, and suggested he was unhappy. He was tired of his hectic schedule, so he has a dream waking wish fulfillment. So here, ironically, his psychiatrist friend disappeared, and when Charlie found a note from him addressed to him from 1894, he learned how happy his friend Sam was living in 1800s. So here there are some questions that you must try to know, and you will certainly know that what does the third level refer to. The third level refers to a medium of escape from the present and into the past. One day, Charlie wanders down into a third level at Grand Central Station, where there are only two levels, and finds himself in the year 1894. This is the photo that shows the construction of a new line that will open, connecting the long Island Railroad with the new concourse underneath Grand Central Terminal. So here you have learned. I would like to tell you another thing, that what Charlie able to go back to the ticket counter on the third level to buy two tickets for himself and his wife to Galesburg? No. Actually, he had new currency, and the man who was standing in the counter, he was willing to have the old currency. So Charlie continued searching that very third level, but he could never find it, and he never reached there. So there was no possibility of his going back to the ticket counter on the third level and buying two tickets for him and his wife to visit Galesburg. Here, Charlie lives in a modern world, and that is filled with insecurities, and where existence can be mundane at times. Earlier, We also see him going into the tunnels, entering some place entirely new. So we can say that the third level was a medium of escape for Charlie. Charlie discovered Sam's letter. Charlie discovered Sam's letter among his grandfather's first covers. The envelope bore an old stamp. It was a real one. It was received by Charlie's grandfather. However, the letter appears to be Charlie's escape into the past, like his visit to the third level. So here, it was something that he wanted to have an escape, and there was an intersection of time and space in the story. Where was that? There is no doubt about a definite intersection of time and space in the story. So there is no doubt about it. Charlie goes to the third level. He travels back in time. Even though the place is the same, yet it appears to have a different city. It is as it was in 1894. Sam reached Julesburg, not a modern Julesburg, but the Julesburg of 1894. So it transcends through space and time. It is quite doubtful that man has achieved that began with an idea. Every idea in the beginning starts with whatever seems to be a far-fetched dream. However, it became a reality. Man can travel to other planets, but in the old days, this would have been a highly unrealistic vision. Unrealistic vision. It was only a flight of imagination to talk to any person anywhere in the world a few years ago, but today it is reality. H.G. Wells gives an idea of time machine. It seems illogical, but it may be possible to travel back in time and future. So here one thing more is there, that is philately. Philately is what it is past is always kept alive by many ways. One way is photography. The photos which have captured people or scenes of nature tell us how things were in the past. Here it is the philately. The old monuments have been preserved in museums. We keep the things that people used in past, but diaries and coins are preserved as well. There are several other ways in which the past can be preserved for the future generations to cherish. So here, that is the idea here that the writer Jack Finney likes to tell us. So Jalsberg is just existing there. Charlie describes it as a wonderful town where the people lived a very leisurely life, and they lived in big houses, huge lawns, tremendous trees, and a peaceful and tranquil world. During summer evenings, people sit in their lawns with men smoking cigars and women waving palm leaf fans. The First World War was 20 years away, and the Second World War was 40 years into the future. That it tells. One day, what does happen? He gets a first day cover. What is a first day cover? When a new stamp is issued, stamp collectors buy some and use them to mail envelopes to themselves on the very first day of sale, and the postmark proves the date. The envelope is called a first day cover. They are never opened. We can just put a blank paper inside the envelope, but here the later Sam Winner writes that was with the written paper, and so he writes like that. So here Charlie discovered This very first discovered in his stamp collection. It was addressed to his grandfather at his Galesburg address. In it, he found a letter of July 18, 1894 addressed to him by Sam. This proved that Sam had reached Galesburg of 1894. What is spittoons? It is now jar-like container into which people would spit. There are spittoons in Grand Central, but they do not exist today. Derby hat. It is an old-fashioned hat used by men in the past, and here derby hats were considered very fashionable in the beginning of the 20th century. Leg of mutton. Sleeves that puff out towards the shoulder. A leg of mutton sleeve needs a lot of fabric to make. So here you can understand this is the cloth, that is leg of mutton. This is the currency that you can see. Today's currency is different from what was used in the past. These are the old currencies that were available in New York. Premium means an additional charge or cost. Some customers are reluctant to pay a premium for organic fruit. Here it is, the Jack Finney in his older years. These are the famous books written by Jack Finney. It is the map to go to Galesburg, Illinois. So here you can see Galesburg it is, and this is the railway station in Galesburg of the olden time that you can see. This is the way that the people lived in a very leisurely manner in Galesburg. It was so, and this is the scene of the house, how the people lived in such tranquility, where they sit in the lawns and they enjoy their life. So in this way, the lesson has come to an end. I told you each and every aspect of this lesson. Thank you, sir.